Welcome back, adventurers! Today, we are heading deep underground into the stinking and crumbling sewers beneath the city. In this video, I'm going to show you how I crafted this multi-level sewer dungeon, including a toxic river and a fully openable hatch that has either a secret exit or maybe some treasures. Let's start straight away with a big chunk of XPS foam. We'll first need a big rectangle of 30 by 12.5 centimeters, which is 12 by 5 inches. Make sure to set aside big chunks like that, because we'll use them to make some pillars a bit later. For the next step, we are going to cut the floor tiles. Each tile will be a square of 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. To do that quickly, you will simply trace some mark across the foam every 2.5 cm vertically and then horizontally. And once you are set, using a ruler, you will cut some big lines. Be careful that the cut does not need to be too deep, a few millimeters will do the trick. And when you are done with all the cuts, you will use a pencil or a pen and you will deepen the cuts. You will see after this step that it's really improving the looks of the floor tiles. For the next step, we will add some textures to the floor tiles. For this, you can simply use a ball of aluminum paper or a stone from your garden. To add some variety, you can also use a flat portion of your stone in order to decrease the level of your floor tiles. Do not overdo it, but on a few random tiles, it will really improve their looks. And when you are done, don't forget to do the same thing on the edges. I want parts of this floor to be collapsed, so I will draw some lines where I will cut it. But if you prefer, you can also keep it like it is. For this step, I'm using a marker because contrary to a pencil or a pen, it will not damage the foam. For the next step, we'll cut all the parts that will be collapsed, but make sure to set them aside because we will use them a bit later. And of course, don't forget to add back some textures on the parts that you just cut. And with that, the upper level is ready, and we will now do the below part. For this, we'll simply cut the exact same rectangle that we did on the first step, and if possible, it will be nice to add a small gutter on one side. Indeed, this gutter will be helpful to attach the wall at the end. And on this rectangle, we'll carve the sewer. Here, I'm tracing the middle part of the sewer because it will be the deepest part. And then I'm tracing the curve that I want for my sewer. And on the edges, I will trace some floor tiles using the same technique as previously. So at this point, this is what you should have. And before carving the sewer, I will do some back panels for my wall using the same techniques that we saw until now. And if you like this video so far, I will be really grateful if you could take the time to like, to comment, and to share it to a friend of yours that might be interested in it. It's really super important for small channels like mine. And now let's go back to the carving. For this, I will be using this handheld wire cutter by Proxon. You can also do it with a hobby knife, it's just that it will take a bit more time. And this is the result at the end. You will see that it's not super smooth, but all those waves will give a great water effect at the end. And again, don't forget to create more floor tiles in the sewer. And now it's time to do the sewer pipe that will be used for the secret hatch. For this, I'm simply using a compass to trace some circle in a block of foam. Just make sure that it's a bit lower than one of your minis and you will be set. For the bars, I will be simply using some toothpicks. And again, for the stonework, I will be using the same technique, starting with a knife and then with a pencil. As always, don't forget some textures. And to cut perfect cylinders, I have made myself this tool. And if you want to do it for yourself, I have made a dedicated video. And to make the hatch openable, I'm going to cut some stones and use the toothpicks as a hinge. As you will see, here it's working properly, but once glued to the pipe, it will not work anymore. The solution is quite simple, and you will simply need to cut a rectangle in the pipe. Here, I make it quite big, but in reality, you only need a few millimeters. This was my first test, and unfortunately, I broke it. So I did a second one that was far better. And now we are done with all the crafting part. It's time to paint it. For this, I'm using the Game Master Grey Primer from Army Painter. Be extra careful that this specific primer is made to be used with XPS foam and that any other spray paint will actually melt it. This is the result after 2 coats of this primer, and here the result after 1 coat of dry brushing. If you are new to this channel, first welcome, and second, the dry brushing is a super easy technique to use. Basically, you will simply need to mix a bit of white in your base color, and for each coat you will add more and more white. Don't hesitate to check one of my previous videos for the details step by step. And for the final step of the paint job, we'll simply use some washes. To create yourself some washes, you will simply need to mix a dip of soap with some water, and then you will add some ink or some paint of the color of your choice. For this build, I have made a green wash for the sewer and a black wash for all the other parts. And this is what you should have before we glue everything together. To reinforce the junction of the walls, I'm using a toothpick in the middle. All the parts that will be in the toxic river will be glued with some hot glue. The idea is to make the junction with the ground waterproof. And finally, on each of the edges, I will make a dam out of hot glue. Take your time and do it in several layers. And for the river itself, I will use some of my green wash and I will mix it with the Diorama FX water effect from Vallejo. And please make sure to put your diorama in a recipient before you pour the FX. Indeed, I will discover at the end of this step that the bottom part of my diorama is completely unwaterproof because of all the cuts that I made to make the floor tiles. To resolve this, I double down on the hot glue on the edges, and in the middle of the diorama, I use some white glue in order to seal every hole that I saw. It's quite easy to spot where there is some issues, because you will see some green stains on it. And I also use some of the FX on the upper part and in the pipe. And to keep the FX in the pipe, I use some covering tapes. And even after all this, I still had some leaks. But each time I put back some white glue on the leaks and it resolves the issues. For the river itself, I made it quite dark at the bottom by mixing a few drops of green ink, and next for each layer, I put less and less ink in the mix. And before the hot glue is completely covered by the river, I will paint it green with some speed paint by Army Painter. Once again, I'm not sponsored by them, but if they want to contact me, they should not hesitate. And for the final step, we'll simply glue everything together, starting by the upper level and finishing by the pipe. And before I leave you with some beauty shots, please let me know in the comments what you think of this diorama. My name is Ben, thank you very much and see you next time!